Alright, so this is question 2 on the week 2 math counts handout, and it says on Monday, Jamal biked 4 miles from home to school at an average speed of 10 miles per hour. After school, he noticed that his bike had a flat tire, so he walked home for 4 miles. This poor kid. But if he walked home at a speed of 3 miles per hour, what was his average speed on the trip to school and back home? So, and again, it says to express our answer as a decimal to the nearest tenth. So, first off, to solve this question, what is average speed? You should first know this equation that is very widely used. It's called distance equals speed times time, and that makes sense, right? If you go at a speed of 10 miles per hour for 1 hour, so that's your speed and your time, your distance is going to be 10 miles, right? Pretty straightforward. And so if we're looking for our average speed, we can just divide both sides by t and get that the average speed is going to be your total distance divided by your total time. And that makes sense again, right? Because if you go a total distance of 30 miles in a total time of 1 hour, well, then your average speed is 30 miles per hour during that time period. So let's look at these two parts of the equation. Do we know D? Do we know his total distance? Yeah, he biked 4 miles to school, walked 4 miles back. 4 plus 4 is 8. His total distance is 8 miles. Now, what about his time? It doesn't really say it in the problem, but of course we can calculate for it. So looking at that equation, distance equals speed times time, we know that time is equal to distance divided by speed. So if we want to find the time it took for Jamal to go to school, well, that is going to be equal to his distance of 4 miles divided by his speed of 10 miles per hour. Now, 10 miles per hour is a fraction, and instead of dividing by a fraction, I want to multiply by its reciprocal because that's the exact same thing. So instead of dividing by 10 miles per hour, we're going to multiply by 1 hour over 10 miles. And this is really nice because the units will cancel out, and we get that it took Jamal 4 hours to go to school. Now, what about on the way back from school? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the distance of 4 miles divided by the rate of 3 miles per hour. But again, dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 1 hour over 3 miles. The miles will cancel out, and the time it took Jamal to get back from school is 4/3 hours. That's crazy. That's 80 minutes on the way back to school of walking, lugging his bike around. But anyway, so we're going to add both these fractions to get the total time. So let me do this over here. And so it was 4/10, right, to school. So the total time is 4/10, which is 2/5 plus 4/3. And we want a common denominator. So that's going to be 15. And so 2/5, we multiply the denominator by 3. We're going to multiply the numerator by 3 to get 6/15. And then 4/3 is equal to 20/15. So those are our two equivalent fractions, which added up equal 26/15. So remember, D is 8 miles. T is 26/15 hours. So our average speed is going to be 8 miles divided by 26/15 hours. While it does say round to the nearest tenth, let's not get out our calculator because we might see a question like this in the sprint round where you're not allowed to use a calculator. And besides, this is totally doable without using one. So again, instead of dividing by this fraction, I want to multiply that by the reciprocal. So we're going to get 15/26 hours. And so 8 divided by 26 is the same thing as 4/13. So we're left with 60/13 miles per hour. Now again, don't take out your calculator to round this to the nearest tenth. We're going to do the long division. 60 divided by 13. So 13 goes into 60 4 times because 13 times 4 is 52. Subtract and we get 8. And we're going to bring down a 0, but when we do that, we have to add a decimal point. And 13 goes into 80 6 times. 13 times 6 is 78. And so that leaves a remainder of 2. And then we bring down another 0. 13 times 1 equals 13. And so it's approximately 4.61, but it does say to run to the nearest tenth. So Jamal's average speed was 4.6 miles per hour.